Yeah, I mean, I think at some point we got to ask the question, right?
Ask it.
Like, is Vasilevskiy washed?
Well, on Monday evening, you had the Tampa Bay Lightning and Toronto Maple Leafs playing in a game that featured two goaltenders at 30 years of age moving in different directions. It was a 5-2 Leafs win over the Lightning, and it really brought to a head the fact that this Anthony Stolarz thing is for sure working in Toronto so far through 5 games. I mean, 2-year deal at $2.5 million per year, and he's got a 938 save percentage or something. Yeah, 938 save percentage through 5 games. So that's working. But on the other side, Andrei Vasilevskiy gets pulled after allowing 4 goals on 14 shots. And it sent a lot, particularly your Vasilevskiy washed antennas up.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point we got to ask the question, right?
Ask it.
Like, is Vasilevskiy washed? He hasn't been good for basically a year and change at this point. He wasn't very good last year. 900 save percentage in 52 games, I want to say. Like about 5 goals saved below average. Certainly not the Vasilevskiy that we've known for years. He did have back surgery to start last season, and just like seems like he hasn't really been the same since. Obviously, it's early here, but like the outlook of the Tampa Bay Lightning changes significantly if Andrei Vasilevskiy isn't very good.
Yeah, and so far offensively, they're kind of, like, I don't want to say like they don't miss Stamkos or whatever. Their power play stinks, but it was never going to be what it was last year. It just needs to not stink. Right now, it does stink. I think it's like bottom 5-ish in the NHL, but they're still scoring at a similar clip overall to what they have last year. But on the power play, they're 3 for 22 with 1 goal, a shorthanded goal allowed. So they're netting 2 power play goals on 22 opportunities. Not amazing. They also lost Mikhail Sergachev, obviously. And if we're going to say that the Stolarz thing is working out in Toronto, part of it has to be that they added Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Chris Tanev. So the defense has been beefed up, improved in front of Anthony Stolarz. The defense has gotten worse in front of Andrei Vasilevskiy. So that's part of it because they added Mikhail Sergachev. They're bringing back a bunch of old geezers from yesteryear of their more successful runs. And I think that Vasilevsky's job right now overall is a little harder than it's been in years past too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but when you look under the hood a little bit, it's not as bad as what he's making it look like. I mean, you look at the Lightning so far this season, they have the 10th best expected goals against, and they're 27th in actual goals against. And that's a product of the 30th ranked goaltending in the league, which you have Andrei Vasilevskiy and you have the 30th ranked save percentage in the league. That's horrendous.
We talk about other teams and their goaltending situations, and I know that like right now in Edmonton, there's a little bit of discourse because they just played Dallas and Jake Ottinger was great in that game. And some people in Edmonton are saying, do you need a Jake Ottinger type to win the cup? And we were saying off the show that goaltending can for sure be a thing that is specific to what your team's cap structure ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
P-Pants over there in Chicago, who won a bunch of cups with them, was
Corey Crawford.
Not an amazing player, but he was a properly paid, not super pricey goaltender who performed well enough in the playoffs. And when you've got Kane and Taves and Duncan Keith and Johnny
Seabrook.
Oduya and Brent Seabrook and like all these guys in front of him who are Nicholas Hjalmarsson, Marion, like you got a really good roster in front of that guy. Hell yeah, that's the goalie that you want, and you want that guy more than a better, more expensive goalie. So in the case of like Edmonton, I say for what he's going to end up costing, I think that if you're spending a ton on other areas of your roster, you probably need a goaltender with high highs, low lows, but a not crazy price tag.
Hey, thanks for watching the channel.
We appreciate everybody who checks out our stuff, but 80% of our viewers are not actually subscribed to this page, so if you could smash that subscribe button, it would go a very long way for us.
The more subscriptions we have, the more visibility we get from YouTube, which allows us to do more.
So press that button. Thank you. What kind of goalie do the Tampa Bay Lightning need with where they are right now, where they're still going to be a really good offensive team? Their defense isn't what it was in the past. Are they a team like a lot of teams throughout the league where it's like, they should be paying a guy a lot of money, which the Lightning are, and kind of depending on the goalie more so than another team that's like, we'll just outscore, we'll out-defend these problems?
Well, I mean, if the question is to win the cup, I think they need an Andrei Vasilevskiy type. Like, I don't think that they're good enough. We talked a lot about their roster construction before the season and how much we didn't like it because they were kind of building from the wings and not as strong down the middle. Their defense got worse. You still need, I think, an Andrei Vasilevskiy at his peak and top abilities to be able to be considered a true contender. But if you're talking about like just to make the playoffs, I think like an average goaltender probably gets them in, maybe not, like slightly above average, but they can't have the 30th ranked goaltending in that division and make the playoffs.
No, and it's just not something that I thought was going to be I thought that they were going to be a worse team because I didn't like the Sergachev trade. I didn't like just for vibes. I didn't like swapping out Stamkos for Gensel, but goaltending can't be bad for this team. If it is, then they're maybe not even a playoff team.
Yeah, and like obviously it's still very early, and Vasilevskiy could be fine, but I think it's worth pointing out that he just like this has to be a conversation at some point because he hasn't been fine in a while.
How do you feel though about the Stolarz thing so far in Toronto? I'm into it, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that like their goaltending hasn't been a problem. I think Joe Wall, like if he can stay healthy, him and Stolarz can be a totally fine tandem as long as they play defense and play structured. My bigger question there is like, how long is Chris Tanev going to last just eating fucking pucks every night?
What kind of roster do you think Toronto is? Because you're spending so much in other areas that you probably can't spend a lot in net. And obviously they aren't spending a lot in net. But if ever there were a team that had superstar players on offense, guys making a lot of big money, where I would still say, you know what? Why don't you go spend $9 million on a goalie just to be careful, just to be safe? It would be Toronto just because they never have goaltending. And whenever they get to the postseason, you just don't know what they have or you actually typically do know what they have and that it's bad.
And like the goaltending is your like safeguard, your safety valve when things go wrong in the playoffs. Like if all else fails and you have the goaltending, you have a chance. But if you don't have the goaltending, you need to be like elite in basically every category. Back to your earlier point, there's no like one size fits all for winning a Stanley Cup in terms of the goaltender. The goaltender has to fit your team. Like Crawford fit the Blackhawks because the Blackhawks were amazing. Darcy Kemper is not an amazing goaltender. He won a Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche because they were fucking stacked.
Jordan Binnington.
Right.
Bad goalies win cups.
I mean, Binnington was playing really well with that team. Kemper was playing like average to below average and still won a Stanley Cup that year. So like the Bruins got carried by Tim Thomas. Like it's very circumstantial. So like Stu Skinner could have won a Stanley Cup with the Oilers last year. It was one game away.
Yeah. And
like we don't think that Stu Skinner's an elite goaltender, but he can play really well. And the team that he was playing behind was really good in the playoffs.
Yeah, so. I mean, this is just an aside. I don't know what Stu ends up getting on his next deal, but if it ends up being like 6 times 6, I'm like, that's like the max the Oilers should be spending on their goaltending anyway. Mm-hmm. So fine. But some of these teams, man, especially Toronto needs... I would love to give Toronto a Jake Ottinger. It's just never going to happen. They're never going to have the dough to spend on goaltending, especially when like they extended themselves defensively to sign Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Chris Tanev, which are good additions, I wasn't crazy about either of those contracts, but whatever. They've made their bed. Oh, no, we talked about it. They're getting Igor next year.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think that's going to happen now, but it would be cool. I mean, like they could go get like a Spencer Knight or something like that. Like somebody who's has a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and just like isn't making a ton. That could work for them. Hockey Rules said Tana's been eating pucks forever. You notice it more because he plays for Toronto. No, like I know that's who he is, but
we
he's
talk
also,
about it more because he plays for Toronto.
Yeah, and it's exactly what they needed. But he's also like a 30-something-year-old who just takes fucking pucks all day, every day. That's not sustainable long term. And maybe he gets it done all year long, but that concerns me more than the goaltending, I guess I would say.
We all silly like the mayor.